Lee opened up the door and made his way into the small station building, Clementine following him like usual. He held the door open for her for a moment, for her to walk inside. The duo studied the small station from inside. They had to admit it. This place looked twice as worse as the motor inn they used to stay at. There was merely a single cot bed in the corner of the room, and a couple of empty cans scattered across the room. A medium-sized trunk at the bottom of the window, and had a shelf at the end with a knife and a couple of empty cans beside it. This place looked like a dump, but hey, it could be worse, and at least it was safe to keep to sleep by the looks of it. What a dump, Lee exclaimed, moving over towards the trunk to see if there was anything useful inside. After all, it did have a strong padlock lock attached to the lock tightly. Looks worse than my old treehouse, Clementine admitted, making her way over towards the shelf, investigating for anything unuseful. Lee kneeled down to the trunk and attempted to pry it open with his bare hands, but it was too strong to break apart with his own strength. Locked up tight. I don't see a key around here. That man probably had it, Clementine replied, as she eyed the small survival knife set against the table, and by the looks of it, it looked like a pretty good weapon. She picked up the knife within her hands, seeing the initials WM carved on the casting. Looks pretty good. She shifted her attention back towards Lee, offering him the knife. Think you can open it with his, Lee? Maybe. It looks sharp enough after all. Thanks, Sweet Pea, Lee thanked, kindly accepting the knife onto his hand. He kneeled back down to the trunk, using a knife in an attempt to pry it open by breaking the padlock. Giving it a couple of strong pulls, and within a few grunts, Lee was finally able to break the padlock, making the trunk accessible. He observed the inside of the trunk, where he saw a few magazines on the left, and to the right were 2 canned foods. It must be the food the man mentioned on the bridge, but he didn't seem to have as much as he thought. The door opened for the second time, and Lee and both picked up the cans in his hands, and he and Clementine turned their attention towards the door to see it was Alvin, who walked inside, checked for food, most likely for his wife. He sighed as he studied the station, surprised on how bad it looked. Man, I thought we had it bad. Look at this dump. He approached Lee, who stood back on his full height, holding both cans of food in his hands. Guess he did have food. Man, screw Nick, Alvin sighed. He was still shocked about Nick's actions moments ago. Although he did feel sympathy for the younger man, he still have to admit was crazy of what he did. Nick's lost of a lot of people, that's for sure. But that doesn't give him any excuse to start shooting up strangers. He was trying to help us, but I do have to agree with what he did was wrong, Lee agreed, having 2 separate opinions about the younger man, and with one being with him, and the other one being against him. Yeah, I know, I'm just saying, Alvin explained. I mean, you ever know someone who did something like that? Yeah, actually I do, Lee answered, thinking about the event more than 2 years ago that caused a massive problem to their group shortly after the attack of the motor inn. What actually happened? Alvin inquired. There was this woman in our group. Our home was attacked and we were forced to leave. She thought of someone in their group was a traitor, and without hesitation, she shot this teenager, Lee answered, thinking back that tragic day when Lily caused so much pain and misery over her paranoia fears. Kenny finished off the walker by slamming his foot down onto the head, crushing it, and now killing it once and for all. He walked back towards the others, who were all looking towards him when he was dealing with the walkers, so he could catch up on what was happening. Now, what the hell's the problem? Before anyone can answer, the sound of the gunshot was fired, and everyone fell silent. They were shocked as they turned towards Lily, who was pointing at Carly's Glock 17 pistol to where Ben was standing, and they saw that it shocked everyone. Ben was laying motionless on the ground, with a bullet mark between where his left eye was, and blood smearing across the ground. Lily had shot him without hesitation, thinking that he was the traitor. Although Lee and everyone was shocked for a few seconds, he swiftly charged towards Lily, rampaging bull, and gripped her right wrist tight with his left hand and slammed her against the RV with his right. "Drop it!" he ordered. Lily looked at her hand, slightly regretting that what she just did. Nevertheless, she obeyed and dropped the gun from her hand. Everyone looked down at the corpse of Ben, not believing what just happened. Why would Lily do this? Why would she just shoot Ben like that? Sure, she may have her suspicions, but there was no need to shoot Ben in cold blood just like that. Holy hell, Kenny mumbled to himself while he watched Carly kneel down to Ben's corpse to check if he was alive or not, before he had his wife shouting for him. She must have heard the gunshot too. Kenny, what's happening? Katja called out from the inside of the RV, clearly hearing the gunshot from the Glock 17 shoot right through their eardrums. Keep duck away from the windows. Kenny quickly responded towards his wife, not wanting his son to maybe lean in for the window and witness what just happened. Jesus Christ! He hopped over Ben's corpse and stand on the other side to confront Lily with the actions. Get in! We're leaving this crazy bitch! He couldn't be trusted, Lee. I swear, Lily promised, still held under the grip of Lee's strong grip. Please. What are you going to do, Lee? Carly asked, although you could clearly tell by her face she wanted Lily gone, and that was that. I say we leave her. I agree with Carly, Kenny agreed, still keeping his eyes locked towards the woman that he always had an argument with back at the motor inn. I say we leave her for the walkers. Why? Why, Lily? Lee inquired, while trying to figure out if she was allowed back in the RV again. He thought to himself, what could have happened if he took her with them? Would she attempt to kill one of them again? But if they left her behind, would he be any better than her? Lee finally made out up his mind and was to leave her behind. He could not risk having her hurt anyone again. If he was to be shot by her, then what would become of Clementine? He released his grip for her, and while taking a deep breath, looked in her eyes with a hateful look. You're not coming with us. I'll die out here, Lily countered, gesturing her arm towards the road where the walkers could be seen, walking towards them in the distance. I don't care, Lee replied, leaning down and picking up Carly's Glock from the ground. You're a murderer, Lily, Kenny nudged, pointed his finger towards her about what she had just done, committed a murder. We can't have you with us. I'm a murderer? You've had Lee with you this whole time, Lily reminded, gesturing her hand towards Lee, knowing that he had killed before the zombie apocalypse began. I don't care what he did before, Kenny replied, knowing about Lee's past after he had confessed it back in the motor inn to him, Katja, Clementine, and Carly, not knowing that she already knew. You know? Lily's surprise realized that there was nothing else she could possibly say that would let her back in the group. Yeah, he told me, and I don't give a shit, Kenny answered, before he turned his conversation about the murders back to Lily. If we kept you with us, how long until you get me? I was trying to protect all of us, Lily added, hoping that her former group would let her back in. If you tried to convince them that she was trying to look out for everyone else. By killing one of her own? Carly said, angry at Lily that she would just kill her right then and now after she just shot one of her closest friends like that. I don't have anything left, Lily said, remembering that her dad, he was the only thing she had left before Kenny dropped all the salt lick on his head, while she nervously rubbing her left arm with her right hand. Kenny looked at her for a few seconds, before declaring it was time to go, before they would attract any unwanted attention. Get in, Lee. Let's go, you guys. Carly and Kenny shot a hateful look towards Lily before they got back in the RV. Now with the walker dealt with, Lee did the same, except it took him a little longer. He looked towards her with an angry face, before joining back in the RV with the others, closing the door behind him. Damn, what did you do? Alvin asked, causing Lee to daze out of his thoughts. We left her on the side of the road. She was too dangerous to be kept around, Lee answered, always wondering if he made the right choice or not by leaving Lily at the side of the road like that. Oh, Alvin merrily replied, unsure of what to say. He accepted one of the cans into his hands from Lee and raised a small smile across his face and showed the can to Clementine. That's funny. She looks just like you. Lee rose a smile across his face, seeing the resemblance between his adoptive daughter and the girl in the tin. He then turned towards Clementine, who did not seem to be amused by his remark, and folded her arms together, giving the two men a saucy look. Hey Lee, there's not a lot of food, and Rebecca, well, she's eating for two. You think we can keep this just between us three? Alvin requested, with a small smile across his face, wanting to give all the rest of the food to his wife to allow her to keep up her strength. I hate to say it, and I'd never go against the group, but I've got to put Beck and the baby first. You guys understand, right? Lee and Clementine fought back of his request for a moment, but it did not feel right. Clementine thought the group should decide on who gets the food, and Lee was worried from what Luke told him earlier, the babies possibly being Carver's. Alvin was concerned about feeding the child, was that most likely not even his. Lee was about to say not, but decided to give him the food for the first this time for Rebecca, and for her unborn baby's sake. Rebecca can have it. I won't say anything just this once. Thanks, Lee. I'm glad you, Carly, and Clementine are with us. Lee thanked and then turned back towards the exit of the train station and joined the others. However, froze in his steps when he spotted something in the distance out of the window. What the hell is that? Lee then walked beside him to investigate what was wrong. His eyes widened just as slight multiple walkers can be seen crossing the bridge. Shit! Walkers! Alvin panicked slightly as he quickly departed from the inside of the station, joining the others outside. And by the looks of their expressions, they seemed to notice the situation as well. We got a problem here. Yeah, we saw it, Luke replied, shifting his attention towards the group. Alright, we're heading up. The former cabin group ran as fast as they could in an attempt to avoid the walkers that were pursuing them. Hopefully they would be endued them all the way up to the lodge and save themselves whatever ammunition they had left. After a few minutes or running through the woods, everyone had managed to lose the pursuing walkers, or they thought so at least, and made it up to the ski lodge that they spotted from the other side of the river. It took them all a few minutes to catch their breath while they had the entrance to the ski lodge. Near the side of the ski lodge, Rebecca caught up to Carlos and Nick while panting slightly. She was so desperate to get inside, needing to rest after a few days non-stop. Well, what are we waiting for? We have to be careful, Carlos answered, keeping a close eye on the cabin, obviously not wanting to rush in there, just in case it was inhabited. Careful, Rebecca repeated, placing both her hands upon her hips. We've been on the road for 5 days. My back is done being careful. Alvin caught up to the others and began studying the ski lodge, noticing the entire place was nailed up with tight boards, leaving only a couple of windows exposed to see through. Doesn't look like anyone's home. Damn, it's nailed shut tight. That's what we thought about us in the train when we went into once, Carly clashed, raising her Glock 17 in both her hands, expecting trouble. What happened? Some old guy was living there first. At first we thought he was dangerous, but he was nice and accompanied us to the city we were heading, Carly answered, thinking about for a moment that same day when she and the others never thought they'd get a chance to find out Chuck's fate after he had saved them. He was surrounded by walkers. We never got the chances to find out what happened to him. Damn, Alvin sighed, feeling that it was unfair when good people in this world are always the first to die first. He stood up into full height after seeing that there was no way in through the windows, meaning that they would need to look for an alternative entrance. I'll check around front. I'll go with you, Carlos offered, following him around the other side of the ski lodge. While they were waiting for someone to declare it was safe or not, Lee and Clementine rested their arms against the wooden railing, looking over in the distance towards the way they came. The duo were still accompanied by Luke, who had an expression across his face like he had the feeling someone could be tracking their group without even them knowing. Well, it'd be good to know if anybody's actually back there, Luke admitted, shifting his attention towards a small group of the small tower nearby. Could possibly get a better view from up there. I'd go up, but I think Clementine's might have an easier time getting up there. It'll be just like climbing a treehouse. You know, a really tall treehouse, made out of steel. Lee thought about his request for a moment, before sending his adoptive daughter to the top of the tower. He had to accept that Clementine was grown up now, and she was no longer a little girl when he met her and this apocalypse began. Sure, if she's up for it, that is. I had a treehouse once, Clementine told Luke, turning away for a moment. I hated it. The second it was settled, she would be the Lee and Clementine would follow Luke towards the tower. She approached the ladder and looked up. Seeing it was quite high and looked like a little difficult to climb. Just take it nice and slow. I'll catch you if you fall, Clem, Lee assured her, already preparing for the worst if it were to happen. Clementine placed her hands on the ladders and began to climb up the ladders while Lee and Luke waited for her below, prepared to catch her as if she was going to slip and fall. Got a good grip? Luke inquired. Yeah, she replied. She began to climb up the ladders, trying her best not to look down, and kept focused on climbing up. Just keep going, Clem, and don't stop until you reach the top. And if you slip, I'll be right there to catch you, Lee assured her, merely watching as she continued to climb slowly, as she could go, not wanting to risk anything if this ladder was unstable. Luke just watched as she continued climbing up the steps, and decided to speak up to her, assuring her tone like Lee was. And that was nothing compared to what he's used to. When I was a kid, we used to jump down rooftops downtown. That was fun. That sounds stupid, Clementine admitted, already halfway up the small tower. I kinda agree with her there, Lee agreed, shifting his eyes towards Luke, with his arms crossed together, giving him a saucy look. That does sound stupid. Yeah, it was, Luke admitted. The trick was to not look down, though. The young girl continued climbing, almost reached the top of the tower, until suddenly she cried out in panic as her left foot slipped, almost losing her grip. She clutched onto her dear life, closing her eyes shut as she could. Whoa! Lee panicked, holding his arms out in front of his body up high, preparing to catch her. Whoa, you're fine, Luke smoothed, holding both his arms up, preparing to catch her if she was filmed similar way to Lee. Just look at me, okay? You're fine. Alright? Just slow down for just a second. Okay? Got your grip? Clementine merely nodded in her head in response, with her head still closed as she froze in her position. She took a couple deep breaths, and then she looked up a couple breaths before making her way up to the tower. After a few more terrifying climbs, Clementine finally made it to the top of the tower, finally feeling safe. She then stood up and looked at the valley beyond. The only thing keeping her company was the black bird, perched on the railing. Made it! See anything? Luke inquired, raising his voice a little louder for Clementine to hear. Clementine raised her binoculars over her eyes, looking back in the distance the way they came. She spotted the bridge that they had crossed and almost died on. I can see the bridge! Wait, I see something. Near the end of the bridge, a light had emerged from the woods. There were a couple of thoughts as to what could be racing through Clementine's mind. Could it be Carver and his men? Or maybe it was just people like other people passing through. You do? Lee asked. What is it? Luke inquired, a hint of worry in his voice, as Clementine mentioned she saw something. A light! Clementine stopped mid-sentence when another light emerged from the woods. Wait, there's another! Lee? Luke? Lee? Luke? Clementine then placed her binoculars down and turned around to see Lee was still waiting for her below, but had his attention towards the ski lodge. However, Luke had ran over towards the others. She watched as the group joined, who were now standing on the other side of what appears to be another group. There were 4 of them, and it did not look so good as far when Nick was one of them, aiming the weapons at each other's figures. Clem, get back down here, Lee requested, he too watching the entire thing, from where he was standing, ready to catch Clementine if she fell. She carefully got back into climbing position, and carefully climbed back down to the tower, praying that she would not slip and fall. Hopefully once she got down, Lee would quickly sort out the situation before any of them opened fire. Nearby there were 2 aiming their weapons at one another. Luke attempted to refuse the situation without any hesitation. Listen, everyone just calm down. A woman from another group spoke to them, in an Indian accent, angrily demanding answers. Who are you? Are you trying to rob us? Excuse me, honey, do I look like a frickin' thief? Rebecca responded to her. Everyone calm down, a man with the red and gray sweater soothed, raising his hands near his front of his body. Just tell us who you are. Sarah, get behind me, Carlos ordered his daughter, preparing to protect her since the situation was getting out of hand. Hey man, calm the hell down, Alvin told him. We ain't gonna rob anyone. Put the gun down, lady. You're outnumbered, Carly told them, was unable to see that she was standing behind them, and she was quite small for her height, of course. Screw you, another woman shouted. Whoa, Luke smoothed, realizing one of them was going to fire soon. If nobody did prevent this, it was just going to be like this bridge situation again. Please, just do what she says, the Indian woman pleaded. While they were arguing, Lee and Clementine moved to the front of their friends to investigate what was happening. The duo marched their way in front of everyone else, keeping their attention focused on the woman with the gun. Lee's eyes widened as he eyed the woman holding the rifle towards them, unable to believe she was there. She should be dead, but here she was, standing in front of his eyes. Lily? That's right. The familiar face was none other than Lily herself. The question was how she was here was a mystery. Lee and the others left her on the side of the road more than 2 years ago, and here she was, standing in front of her former group. She was now wearing army cargo pants and was wearing a black hooded zip-up, similar to the one that the Indian lady was wearing, but her hand had grown a little longer. She did not look different after all. Lily slowly dropped her gun down after seeing her familiar friends, and rather than be angry at them for leaving on the side like they expected, she too was surprised. She eyed at their three former friends, unable to believe if this was real or not. Clementine? Lee? Carly? Wait, you know this lady? Luke asked Lee. Lee was about to answer the story about what she did to Ben over 2 years ago. But about what good would that do? That would just make the situation even worse than it has to be. For now, he told a lie to keep everyone from shooting each other. Yeah, we're old friends, right, Lily? Lily could see where he was getting and decided to go along with his little lie of his. Yeah, we knew each other a while back. We should get inside. Great, I'll just start on dinner, the man in the sweater agreed. Carlos looked at the other group for a moment, his arms crossed together, now beginning to trust them, since Lee, Clementine, and Carly knew them. His daughter looked happy, though, to see a couple of doubts. Are you sure you don't mind? It's gonna storm soon, the man warned, offering them shelter for the night. Please, come in. Lily's group headed inside with the survivors around the cabin, towards the main entrance inside. While they were walking, Lee and Lily looked at each other for a moment, but one of them, despite what happened in the past, the two raised a slight smile to each other. Maybe everything was going to be okay after all.